everyone. You're probably wondering what these two random dudes are doing on your screen right now, right? My name is Kelvin Nyabuti, and I'm here with my brother. What's your name?
Cyril or Cyril, whatever that.
You don't know how to pronounce your name, bro. I'm here with my brother Cyril, and guess what? We're starting a new series. Let me tell you something, Cyril. When last year was ending, I saw this meme, and guys were like, fight the urge this year to start a new podcast. Look at who didn't fight that urge.
You failed. Failure.
We are failures.
Yeah.
So hi guys, welcome back to Dawn of Faith. We want to welcome you to a new program. And this is a program that we are really excited about. It's a program that we have spoken about for a while, not as a program, but just in the sense that we've had conversations around the gospel, around God, around the Bible that have eventually morphed into the necessity of us having these conversations. So, Cyril, what are we doing here today?
Literally, we are trying to ask out questions that people won't like asking out loud. Perhaps you might be viewed as a heretic or something. Yeah, and I think one of the biblical... I like how the Bible allows curiosity and questioning. You know these days when you ask a question, is there a God? People look at you, huh? What are you saying? Like, the Bible itself makes an assumption that God already exists. It doesn't tell you where he came from or blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Just makes that assumption. And so when you're growing up, personally, when I was growing up, I'm a very stubborn person. I usually don't like when you tell me something A is equals to B, I have to know why is A equals to B.
Yeah.
So in growing up, I had such questions, and I was being told, "But when you grow up, you will understand."
You understand.
And I have grown up. I have failed to understand.
It's now time to try and understand.
Yes. So now the Whispers of Why is an answer to somebody who has those questions, but because they fear how they will be perceived, they can't ask them out loud. Yes.
And that's interesting because I think many of us genuinely, where we come from in our experiences of life, whatever context we've grown up in, we've been cultured around the fact that, especially when it comes to questions of the faith, growing up in a Christian household, for example, you're told not to ask these questions. You're cultured around the fact that if you ask certain questions, it's because you're an unbeliever or because, and if you do so, you're beginning the slippery path to eventually letting go of God. But now, Whispers of Why, I think, is coming up as a necessity because these questions that we have, I think, for the most part, they are what enervate our faith. They're what make us give up on the faith because we have so many questions, we have so many doubts, we have so many reasons to disbelieve. And when we take them to the people who are supposed to help us believe, they tell us, just believe. I don't think if we did that when it comes to scientific inquiry, we'd be content with those answers. Imagine there's this lecturer when I was in campus, when we were doing engineering mathematics. So he used to come to class and would say, in this class, I will give you a percentage X, which X is greater than 0, but it tends toward 0. And then it's saying, when you don't understand what I'm saying, don't ask, just believe. And the thing is, when you're there and you're thinking about, for example, pursuing academia, you wouldn't just believe. You wouldn't be told some irrational phrases and you build a whole philosophy around it. So I think it's time, even in the Christian faith, for us to, in very intentional ways, get to the place where we spark up the conversations of the faith. Things which many people are, believe in their closets or hold in their closets that are making them disbelieve in the Lord. So that we bring them to the front and we deal with them.
Yeah. I think most people present God as if he's this somebody with inferiority complex. Like he's too scared if we ask these bigger questions. And he even, in fact, he dares us, ask and it shall be given to you. And he tells us, come, let us reason. Don't just believe things because I've said I believe them. Come, let me see where you're coming from. And one of the biblical stories, the story of Thomas, is what gives me interest in some of those questions.
Yeah.
Like Thomas was audacious enough to tell these people, I know you guys have said you have seen him, but I will not believe. He was a skeptic. He was somebody who didn't just take words at their face value. And so God had to be patient enough and was patient enough to come and personally appear to Thomas and ask him to fulfill all the criteria he had to be able to believe. And so Thomas represents a group of Christians that most of us, we try to marginalize.
Yeah.
Those people who have these questions, but because they fear their parents.
Yeah.
So they are in church not because they want to, it's because they fear what their parents will do to them. And so Whispers of Why, it's a response to tell you that, I mean, God is so bold. He wants you to ask him those questions. Yes.
And I was just, when you said Thomas, I began thinking of Jeremiah chapter 33, verse 3. And it's a very familiar text which says that, call unto me and I will answer you and I will show you great and mighty things which you know not. It's interesting because this is God saying that, call me and I will answer. And the response to that answer is that I will show you things you don't know. That there is information that up to this particular point is beyond our realm, in the sense that we have not yet comprehended it. God doesn't say, I will never explain these things to you. In fact, he says, in response to us calling him, he will reveal all those things to us. And I like that you said, many people imagine God has an inferiority complex. But when you read the Bible, God is very bold about it. When he says, for example, in the book of Isaiah 55, that my thoughts are higher than your thoughts. For me, that's quite the bold statement, because when he says his thoughts are higher than ours, it basically means his level of reasoning and logic is so significantly beyond what we can ever imagine, that where the wisdom of man ends is where the foolishness of God begins. So that God has an infinity of wisdom and knowledge for whatever questions we have. And I don't think, in all honesty, that God will create the human brain and then be intimidated by the questions that brain comes up with. It's like how when you talk about the progress of AI and whatnot, and you talk about like getting to the place where we have general intelligence and artificial and AGI, and we say that AI is going to get to the place where it's able to
replace us
entirely.
Software developers like us,
we are suffering.
The next 6 months
will be replaced.
And
it's wild to think that God might have created us as automatons who he is now like, we've developed so far beyond his capacity, until he's shocked. He's like, wait, the questions you guys are asking, they're not in the manual that I had for you, so don't ask them. Otherwise, no, I think if God truly is infinite in his capacity, he should be able to deal with the questions that we have. But now here's where I want to throw a question to you. What then? So are we then saying, as we start up Whispers of Why, that the path, and I'm sure someone listening to this is now probably wondering, are we saying that the path to truth is through doubt? Are we falling? Are we invoking the Grecian view of pursuit of knowledge, where you just ask idle questions? Are we saying doubt is the way in which we come into a knowledge of the truth? Or rather, to phrase it well, what's the difference between how a skeptic asks questions of God to try and invalidate God, and how an honest inquirer asks questions to be able to find out the truth? Both of them are asking questions. What's the difference, and which one are we trying to do here at Whispers of Why?
Yes, so you see, like there are two frames of mind, as you've said it. A skeptic, the motive is not to get the answers. The motive is to disapprove.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to make sure that this story is wrong. A secret inquirer, as in a person who's trying to, like, the intention is, I mean, perhaps there might be some truth in this, but I just don't want to put my feet in too deep without knowing if this is a cult or if this is something that is objectively true. And God makes bold claims, like in John chapter 1, verse 1.
Yeah.
Like, in the beginning was the Word. The word for word there is logos, for those who've studied Greek, or if you went to a biology class, there was bio and logos.
Yeah.
Logos meant knowledge.
Yeah.
Like, knowledge of even basic truths, like 1 + 1. Like, he's
the totality of knowledge.
And so, to us, somebody who admires, just who follows truth for whatever it leads to, he's not inquiring for him to disapprove it. He just wants to see if it's genuinely true. But a skeptic has this mind that, I don't believe in this. I just want to know. I just want to prove that if it's false. And so somebody going to read the Bible where he sees chapter is it chapter 4, chapter 5 where God kills everyone except the 8 that remains. It's chapter 6. So he goes there. The first assumption. You see a tyrant, and as in I am in chapter 6 and he has already killed everyone. And so like you don't approach it from what is the context. What was God meaning in this? So I think for us, the Bible has given us some basic truths, okay? Or we have basic truths that there's something that exists beyond our comprehension. And so we are trying to seek that perhaps did God actually reveal himself through this? And if he did, because as in the Christian God that people present is someone who wants to be known, okay? He doesn't shy away. He wants. He's really so into this like creation so much that he wants us to know him for who he is. So we are asking a question: does the claims that people make actually do God support those claims? And so that we are in pursuit of knowing if this Bible presents the true facts, or if some facts are construed.
Amen. And so, like what you're saying is that the posture of the heart of the honest inquirer is not that they're beginning from a place of antagonism. It's not that I want to be able to prove that God is wrong. It's I want to give God a chance to convince me. And the thing is, God actually does say if you give him a chance to convince you, he will do that. You know, because God, and maybe people who are hyper religious should take time to actually think about this, that people are afraid of asking questions, or rather afraid of allowing others to ask questions, because we feel like if they ask and they don't find answers, they're going to leave the faith. But then what we're trying to say is that God has a greater desire for us to come to the faith than any human being ever will have, so that if this is true, then God also has a greater desire to answer whatever questions we have, if he knows those are the questions that will keep us away from the faith. So that God's posture is one that favors curiosity, one that favors inquiry, but only one that favors the inquiry of the honest heart, where we are asking not because we want to prove a point, or because we want to disprove God, but because we've had a glimpse of something greater than us, and we want to give God the capacity to convince us that he is that greater thing. We want to open our hearts to the possibility of him being the answer. And I want to read for us a quotation from one of my favorite books. This is a biblical, this is, if you've ever read the Message Bible, it was translated by a gentleman called Eugene Peterson. You have a physical copy of it?
Yeah, Peterson. It's already here.
Yeah, it's translated by a guy called Eugene Peterson. And there's this line which he writes in page 75 of this book. It's called, I'm reading a book called A Long Obedience in the Same Direction. It's one of my favorite books on the face of earth. He's my second favorite author, by the way, apart from biblical authors. And he writes and says, so he's talking about how, for context, about how many people disbelieve the gospel because they haven't given the gospel a chance to answer the questions they have. And he's commenting on the Psalms, and he eventually talks about how the Psalms present this God who's not ashamed. So he uses this phrase, warts and all religion, where the Psalms are like, whatever is present is what I'll tell you. So the good things, the bad things, the terrible things. And then he adds and says, now this is what I want to read. I just want to read it verbatim. He writes and says that many of us, when we're reading the scriptures, in the midst of the world painted in the Bible, we imagine that all the Bible is doing is to present to us what would otherwise look like an advertisement of God. And then, so we read it and say, vigorous poetry, well done, but who was your copywriter and how much did they pay you to say these things? So that he's painting this idea that many of us think that like the Bible is like an advertisement for God. So everything is good and beautiful and just meant to show how good God is. But he says, the Bible is actually just a very honest story. And now this is the part I want to read. This is like the key point. He says, the cure for any kind of cynicism against the Lord is to bring it out into the open and deal with it. So that anyone who has a question, any kind of cynical thoughts about who God is, the cure to it is to bring it to the front and to deal with it. So he says, if it is left, if cynicism, questions, and doubts are left to work behind the scenes in our hearts, they are a parasite on faith, they enervate hope, and they leave us anemic in love. That this culture built around running away from questions, this culture built around hiding cynicism and persecuting people who have questions, it becomes parasitic to faith. It kills hope. It leaves us anemic in love. And so he says, don't hesitate to put the Psalms or any other scriptural passage under the searchlight of your disbelief. The reason many of us do not ardently believe in the gospel is that we have never given it a rigorous testing. We have never thrown our hard questions at it. We have never faced it with our most prickly doubts. Subjected to our most relentless and searching criticism, the Bible, I think, will finally convince us of its honesty. There is no literature in the world that is more true to life and more honest than the Bible. For here we have warts and all religion. Every skeptical thought, every disappointing venture, every pain, and every despair we can ever face is lived through and integrated into a personal, saving relationship with God. I think that's a point, man. Mm-hmm. So let me ask, are there ways in which this culture of hiding away doubt and keeping questions at the back and not bringing them to the front, are there ways in which they have affected your faith as Cyril?
Yes. You see, sometimes for me, if questions pile up as much, like it's a ticking time bomb. Because at some point, you're going to be faced with a challenge of sorts.
Yeah.
And then the question of, because all these questions, if you don't have them, like you don't have like a reasonable explanation. Of course, we are not saying that we can answer all questions, but we need sufficient questions to the level that the Bible can be trusted. But if you leave these questions piling up, as in for a long time, you're going to be in a situation where when circumstances, like when an issue of suffering, actually suffering is the best situation. And now this doubt starts becoming like, they become so compounded. You now start doubting the question is God really there? And because he's never answered any of your questions.
Yeah.
Yes. But if you pursue like the course of inquiry and you study the Bible the way it is, when you have answered like sufficient questions, you may be able to believe in that which is unknown. And I like how I was looking for Jeremiah as we were speaking, Jeremiah 29, verse 13. Actually, verse 12. Okay, the 11. Let's start with 11.
The common one.
The common one.
Yeah.
For another thoughts that I think of towards you, say the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. Then shall ye call upon me, and ye shall go and pray unto me, and I will hearken unto you. And ye shall seek me and find me, when ye shall search for me with all your heart. Now, I like the phraseology of 29 verse 11 to 13. We focus mostly on these verses. We forgot the context. Now, the context is God has sent these guys to Babylon. And he's telling them, when you go there, make sure you behave well.
Yeah.
Behave well, because if they prosper, you shall also prosper. And then, so they have gone through this pain, and then he's telling them, I know the thoughts I have for you. You know, it's confusing, the thoughts you have for me, and we are suffering.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you look in the broader context of it, the reason why they are calling upon God is because there was a divine action.
Yeah.
This divine punishment will be able to lead them to a point where they can be able now to ask and seek for God. Because he's telling them that I know the plans I have for you. And that is a divine, that as in a divine claim. You're asking yourself, okay, which thoughts? Okay, and then that suffering, it's telling me it's a divine punishment. So you're going to ask God, give us answers, and he's going to explain himself fully. So in the sense that God is ready to answer any of our questions. And you know, the first thing is God is eternal. Eternity to our minds doesn't seem to make sense. Yeah. Because from a rational mind, everything has a beginning. But God is the uncaused cause. We can go on a tangent for that, but for now, let's just have it as statement of fact.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to argue about it, we can have a whole episode on that.
Yeah.
But what is telling us that the knowledge of, as in God has known things from the very eternity. Okay? So we can't condense eternity in a 70 years plan.
Come on.
It will have to take eternity for us to be able to answer some of these questions. So perhaps things that might appear as difficult as of now, it's just because time is limited.
Yeah.
And the good news is he has promised us eternity.
We'll have time.
Yes, to unpack all these questions. And we'll come to, I like a favorite author of mine, which tells us that eternity will, as in during eternity, will come to conclude that there was no other way things would have been done. This was the only logical way that things would have been done. Yes. And so we might not have the full answers to the question. That's why there's Deuteronomy 29 verse 29.
Yeah. That the secret things belong to God.
Yeah, people use it as a lazy explanation to avoid answering. They just say any question, the secret things belongs to God. No, of course, he's telling us that
there are secret
there
things.
are secret things. There are things we will not be able to uncover for this life.
Yeah.
But through eternity,
there's an eternity to understand
all these questions.
I like saying that a topic as infinite as God requires an infinite amount of time. And maybe then the other question I'd like to ask you as we wrap up this intro is, we were talking about asking questions, and we've premised the fact, we've premised our whole ideology in this conversation on the fact that the Lord wants to answer those questions. Do you think then that we should say, is it proper then to say that we shouldn't believe the Lord, or we shouldn't become Christians until all our questions are answered? Or basically, like, what's the trade-off between asking the Lord questions and making him answer all those questions become the test of my Christianity? Is there like a trade-off? Are we saying, don't, until every doubt is cleared, don't walk this path? Or is there provision for the Lord to clear these doubts as we walk this path? And if there is, what is the threshold? What should we be clear on that will motivate us at least to walk down this path?
Yes. I like the book of Romans. It answers that question very explicitly, but I will not go into this. It tells us that you actually don't need the Bible to believe in God. From nature, he has given us sufficient reasons to believe in him. You see, the thing is, as we've said, it will take eternity for us to be able to clear all the questions that we have.
Yeah.
So if we wait for us for God to answer all our questions,
we won't get to eternity.
But he has given us sufficient reasons. There's sufficient amount of evidence he has given us to make us believe in him. And okay, this story just came up. I have to say it because the Exodus 20 story is a very interesting story of mine.
Yeah.
The Exodus 20 story is, the context of it is God had taken these guys from Egypt. He had fed them.
Yeah.
He had given them water. He had won wars for them. That's when he introduced the 10 Commandments.
The 10 Commandments, yeah.
I'm about to say 20 Commandments. That is heresy. The 10
you
Commandments.
have others that we don't.
Yes.
Thou shalt not marry.
Very funny. So God had to sufficiently give them enough evidence for now for him to come and say, in fact, it starts, it's verse 1. I am the Lord thy God who has taken you out of the land of Egypt.
Yeah.
As in, I have shown you that I am all sufficient. I have shown you that I have, I can give you everything that you need. And because I have told you that, then therefore, thou shalt not. In fact, there's a whole research about that the shall in that is a promise.
Yeah.
That since I have given you water, I have
you
given
will
you...
not, because I will keep
I
you.
will make sure that you do not do this.
Exactly.
I will make sure that you shall not kill. So he gave them sufficient evidence. He didn't wait for the 40 years to end for him to give them the Decalogue.
Yeah.
He just gave them sufficient evidence for them to be able now, to make a choice if this is the laws we want to keep or not. And so God gives us sufficient amount of evidence.
Yeah.
Yes. That we can be able now to operate on the principle of faith. Because now we have known him, now we can trust him. We can hope in things that he has not shown us.
Amen. And I think then that's it, because if God merely wanted to give us information for the sake of information, he would pour it all out at once. If he just wanted to answer the great philosophical questions of life, he would at once just give us everything that we need to know. But because God is interested in relationship, relationship means that there is a consistent unfolding of reality over time. You see, like when you want to get into a relationship with a lady, you don't just... For example, you know these memes where someone is like, I've gotten so tired of talking stages, so I prepared a PDF. If someone wants to talk to me,
yellow.
take this PDF, read it. You want everything you need to know about me is there. That can't build a relationship because relationships are built on the consistency of conversation, on increasing revelation, right? So because God is interested in increasing revelation, or is interested in relationship, then he pursues this path of progressive revelation. So we are saying that God essentially, while he might not reveal everything to us at once, he reveals sufficient for us to be able to begin to walk down that path. And I think one of the best illustrations for me is this common text in the book of Psalms 119 verse 105. It says, thy word, O Lord, is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. And if you've used a lamp at night, a lamp doesn't show you the whole path. It shows you enough ground for you to take the next step. So the path of inquiry that we're talking about here, for those who are listening, is not that we are sitting until God answers everything and then we walk. It's that because of how relationships work, you know, as you know, like when you go on that first date and you've gotten to know a little bit more about them, it gives you sufficient incentive to go on the next date. And the more dates you go, the more willing you become to commit until you get to the place where now someone asks for the commitment, right? And I think that's what's happening here. Like as you mentioned, God was walking with the Israelites consistently, and the commitment, he eventually asked for it in Mount Sinai. But the thing is, with every increasing revelation, Israel needed to also become interested in taking that next step toward Sinai. So yes, we are asking questions, and as the Lord reveals these answers to us, we are becoming more willing to have him enter into our experience and answer the rest of the questions. We are not withholding our hearts until he sorts everything out. We are walking with him in the increasing light. And he has assured us that he will consistently keep us on that path until we get to the very end. So I think that's it. That's what we're doing at Whispers of Why, right?
Yes.
I hope for you guys, this is justification enough for you to join us for the next episode. They'll be longer than this. This was just an intro to whet your appetites.
Yeah, and but so fun questions.
Oh yeah. So here's the thing. How do they reach us? Where, if they have questions, if they have comments, you know, at least we are coming up with questions that we had because I mean, it's our show. So we're asking, first of all, the questions we have. But like if people have questions, if they want to comment, if they want to engage, if they want to give us more information, if they want to be on the podcast as guests.
As guests who ask us questions.
How do they reach us, Cyril?
There's an email down there. There's a phone number that's going to be added there for WhatsApp for those ones who are not on email. Not Gen Zs and email. Yeah.
Emails are a millennial type of thing.
Yes. So we have TikTok. For the Gen Zs, there's Instagram for those ones, Instagram buddies and whatever. And then there's Facebook.
You're a problematic man.
Yes. So we're like in all socials. So just search Dawn of Faith and you can ask however absurd the question might be.
It's a safe space.
Yes. One person asked us, why did God kill Onan? Yes. And
so
we're planning to answer that question.
We'll answer it. Maybe we'll have a session on it. I know that one will interest.
So there's no...
I know friends of mine who will be interested in that one.
In that, okay, perhaps they have. Okay. Anyway, moving on softly. But the point is, those questions that you cannot ask your church pastor out because you fear, just ask them. If we don't know, we will tell you. But we will take some time also
pray about it, inquire, read,
and
research.
Even read, Yes, but this is the pod to ask those questions.
Amen. So yeah, guys, you've heard it here live. You've heard it here first. If you have questions, email us, DM us on any social platform, add in the comments of this video. We'll follow up on all of them. and we promise to try to the best of our abilities to make time to answer them and to answer them sufficiently. We don't have all the answers again. We're just two random people. We're not even theologians. We're just two random people who read the Bible. So
you're assuming that we have all the answers. Perhaps we have answers.
And if you have answers,
DM us the answers.
Actually, by the way, if you have better answers to the questions, I mean, we don't even dare claim a monopoly to information. So if you have the better answers to the questions, DM us. If you want to be part of the pod to answer some of those questions, reach out. We can always work something out. But otherwise, so that's it, guys. This is our new show, Whispers of Why. It'll be airing every week, right? When should they expect
Wednesday,
it?
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
The timings, we're still working on it. I will ask our guys behind the scenes, but it will be on Wednesday.
So every Wednesday from this Wednesday all the way, you will look forward to these sessions. And hope they'll be a blessing. So share them out with your relatives. Remember to like, subscribe, and follow all our channels. This helps to just increase engagement so that we can reach more people with this content. Otherwise, God bless you guys and see you here every Wednesday. Anything from you, Cyril?
I almost ended with that picture on the poster, but
oh yeah, you wanted to do the poster photo there.
Small darling, but next episode.
All right, bye guys. Bye bye. See you next week, and God bless you so much.